By the dawn of the 20th century, the Ottoman Empire stood as a fading titan, a multi-confessional realm struggling to survive in an era of aggressive nationalism. Known disparagingly as the sick man of Europe, its borders were receding, its treasury was hollowed by debt, and its industrial base was virtually non-existent. While the great powers of Europe, Britain, France, and Russia, plotted to carve up the remaining Ottoman territories, the leadership in Istanbul faced a desperate choice: find a powerful ally or face total disintegration. The spark that ignited World War I in 1914 forced the empire's hand. Initially, the Ottomans sought an alliance with Britain, but the British government's sudden seizure of 2 Ottoman-ordered warships poisoned any hope of cooperation. Feeling humiliated and vulnerable, the empire turned to Imperial Germany. Kaiser Wilhelm II, eager to challenge British and Russian influence, had spent years cultivating Ottoman ties through the Berlin-Baghdad Railway. By August 1914, a secret defensive alliance was signed. Germany hoped the Ottomans would open new fronts to distract Russia and threaten British control over the Suez Canal, while the Ottomans saw a chance to reclaim lost lands in the Balkans and the Caucasus. To force the empire into the conflict, Germany gifted 2 of its warships to the Ottoman Navy. On October 29, 1914, these ships led a daring raid on Russian Black Sea ports, including Odessa and Sevastopol. This calculated provocation left the Ottomans no choice. Russia, Britain, and France declared war within days. Sultan Mehmed responded by proclaiming a global jihad against the Entente powers, hoping to incite rebellion among the millions of Muslims living under colonial rule. The most ambitious and tragic opening move of the Ottoman war effort occurred in the frozen heights of the Caucasus. Enver Pasha, the charismatic and aggressive Minister of War, planned a bold envelopment to crush the Russian Caucasus army. He envisioned a swift strike to capture the strategic rail hub of Sarikamish, which would open the door to Baku's oil in Central Asia. However, Enver's ambition ignored the brutal reality of the terrain. His troops, mostly peasants from Anatolia, lacked winter uniforms, proper boots, and adequate food supplies. As the offensive began in December 1914, the Third Army was forced to march through waist-deep snow across mountain passes exceeding 10,000 feet. In the biting cold of the Anatolian winter, the elements became a deadlier enemy than the Russian rifles. Tens of thousands of Ottoman soldiers succumbed to hypothermia and exhaustion before they even reached the front lines. The hillsides were littered with frozen corpses, many still clutching their rifles in shallow snow pits. By the time the remaining Ottoman forces reached Sarikamish, they were a shadow of an army. Despite their exhaustion, they launched desperate frontal assaults against fortified Russian positions. The fighting was savage, often devolving into hand-to-hand combat in the blinding snow. While the Russians also suffered from the cold, their logistical lines were shorter and their equipment better suited for the Arctic conditions. By early January 1915, the Ottoman offensive had completely collapsed. The retreat was even more harrowing than the advance. Out of an original force of nearly 120,000 men, only a fraction returned. Official estimates suggest up to 80,000 Ottoman lives were lost, not just to combat, but to frostbite, starvation, and a subsequent outbreak of typhus. It remains one of the most concentrated military disasters in history. When Enver Pasha returned to Istanbul, he censored the news of the defeat to protect his reputation, instead casting blame on minority groups within the empire, a narrative that would have devastating consequences in the years to follow. Simultaneously, the British were striking at the empire's southern flank. Seeking to protect the vital oil refineries in the Persian Gulf, a British Indian expeditionary force landed at the Fao Peninsula and seized the port of Basra by November 1914. This marked the beginning of a grueling campaign in Mesopotamia that would drain Ottoman resources for the remainder of the war. The year 1914 ended with the Ottoman Empire fully committed to a total war it was ill-prepared to fight. From the frozen peaks of the Caucasus to the marshes of the Tigris, the sick man had shown he could still strike, but the cost was an entire generation of men. Sarikamish was not just a military failure. It was a grim omen of the 4 years of suffering, famine, and eventual collapse that would redraw the map of the Middle East forever. Thank you for watching KyneAndCo.